Is it ever good to be wrong? Tune into this episode of Man Talk as we discuss it next. All right, so welcome back. As you were down in Florida for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks, February here. Going from Michigan to Florida.
Smart man.
It was an enjoyable time. It's just warm, And then we come back, it's only just a few weeks before spring in Michigan.
Well, exactly. Your first day back is March 1st, so
yeah, right. Yeah,
you just got a couple more months of
Absolutely.
winter.
Saw lots of cool stuff down there. I went to a little bit of golfing and stuff. And hey, one thing that I saw, I've been itching to ask you this question.
Okay.
I was sitting at a stoplight in Florida. The stoplights are forever long.
Right.
And there's a man going up and down, had a sign, anything will help or will work.
Sure.
Food, whatever. And he was standing underneath a sign that said, no soliciting, ordinance, it says no loitering, violators will be fined or arrested. So this guy's standing right here on the sign. You can see the picture.
Could care less about the sign.
Yeah, and whether he couldn't read it or... So here's my question for you.
Yeah, all right.
Is if you were a police officer, would you arrest this guy?
If I were a police... Yeah, okay.
If you were the police officer, would you say, hey, buddy, can't you read?
Yeah.
Get out of town.
Well, if I was told to by my superior officer, I guess I would have to. But if it was my call, no, I probably wouldn't.
Even though he's breaking the law?
Well, I would... okay, so that's a really good question. I think that there's if you can get someone to stop breaking the law, is there any value in that?
Sure.
Like, for instance, I think you can look at that two ways. You can go, hey, this person needs to pay the penalty. I need to be in the enforcer, and they need to get the wages of their sin. So I'm not suggesting that isn't a valid path, and I think you could argue that even that was justice. You're supposed to do that.
I'm sure there are people who are saying, hey, buddy, can't you read the sign?
Right.
But I was conflicted there because I wanted to, I just wondered if I were the police officer, would I kick that guy out? Would I arrest him? And
would you give him money is the question? Because if you do, wouldn't he?
Well, I did. I gave him $2
okay.
and a little glow track thing.
Okay, now wouldn't that encourage him to stay there though?
Yes.
So no, you were aiding and abetting, right?
So I am a culprit, right?
Yeah. No, seriously. Okay, here's what I'm thinking. There are ways you can look at something. One is just to enforce penalties, judgments. That's one thing. But there's also another option, and that would be if you can practice grace or mercy. What if that caused the person to stop doing what was wrong? Wouldn't that have some validity to it?
Yeah. If I were the police, I would just say, hey, buddy, why don't we go over to this spot, right? Or if you help him out in some fashion, right?
Yeah. I don't know if you ever heard of Mayor LaGuardia. He's old in the 30s. He was a mayor of New York City, and the story goes that one night he took over for a judge. It was a cold, wintry night, and he took over, and he was hearing cases. He would do that from time to time. And this lady, it was a grandmother, was brought in, and she was caught stealing a loaf of bread. And so the mayor said, why are you stealing bread? And she said, my grandchildren are starving, and I didn't know what else to do, so I stole this loaf of bread. And he said, all right, the fine is $10 or 10 days in jail. And he slammed the gavel down. But then what he did was really interesting. He took out $10 and he said, I'm going to pay your fine, ma'am. And then he looked at the rest of the courtroom and he said, I'm fining everyone in this room 50 cents for living in a city where a woman has to steal bread to feed her grandkids.
I love that, Judge. That's near LaGuardia, like LaGuardia,
like the airport.
Airport.
Yeah. And so
no wonder they named an airport after this guy.
Because the dude was solid, right? So apparently the lady went home with $47.50 that night.
Wow,
it was in the papers.
I love that story.
Yeah, it's awesome. So, let me ask you this: was justice served? Did the fine get paid?
Yes.
Yeah. So he dealt with the law. He didn't break the law.
Right.
But then he did something outside of the scope that you weren't expecting. He got really, really creative.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what God does with us.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Story after story after story.
Right.
Jesus upheld the law, not laws that were legit, God-given laws, but those that, he looked out for the person first, and then if he could do it within the guidelines of the law.
Right.
I mean, you and I are lawbreakers every day. We're sinners, but he has a tendency to forgive us of those sins. But
and he's not trying to change the law, but he's trying to change you.
Right.
And that's the difference.
Yeah.
And I think, James 2:13, right?
Yeah.
It talks about this concept and how God approaches the judgment. It's not like he doesn't take it away, but in James, you got it?
I had it when I lost it. But
that's right. James 2:13, it's a really interesting text, which, go ahead.
It says, for judgment is without mercy to the one who has shown no mercy. Mercy triumphs over judgment.
So mercy triumphs over judgment. So again, not taking away the fact that there is judgment, but God has mercy. So I think God is the type of cop, right?
Yeah.
That says, look, you can't stand here and beg.
Right.
For several reasons, not just because there's a sign, but I want a better life for you.
Yeah.
And let me help you get it.
Yeah, that's good.
And so I think he would be the type of policeman, and I think there's a lot of amazing policemen. I know a lot of them who practice that on a very consistent basis, where they're not looking to try and nail people to the wall, but they're trying to actually get them to change. And mercy and grace is what causes that to happen.
Absolutely. Now, when you said that, when we were reading that text, another one that came to mind is, blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we receive mercy from God, when we realize that God has given us, is merciful towards us, which we've blown it so many times, then because of our accepting of Jesus's gift of mercy, we're merciful towards other people. Otherwise, if we don't accept that mercy, we're usually pretty judgmental towards folks. So I love that Jesus said, hey, if you've received my mercy, then you need to be merciful towards others as well.
Absolutely. And so remember that story in John chapter 8 where he is he's just living his life, doing his own thing, and all of a sudden this woman gets dragged to him.
Oh, yeah.
Who was caught in sin.
Mm-hmm.
And they bring her to him, and he's, she's in a really rough state. It's probably totally embarrassing. They dragged her out. It says in the very act. So here she is. She stands before him, and all these people just embarrassed to the core.
Judgment has been given.
Right. And they said, look, the law says that you stone this woman. What do you say? And what's really intriguing about it is, what does Jesus do?
Yeah, he upholds the law.
Yeah. But
he doesn't. Yeah.
Right. He starts writing in the sand. In verse 6, it says, this they said to test him, that they might have some charge to bring against him, which is really interesting. Just to pause real quick there. They were saying, if he kills this woman, if he allows us to kill him, we're going to nail him to the wall. Right. But if he doesn't,
we're going to nail him to the wall.
We're going to nail him to the wall. Like, either way, we're going to get him, because if you do away the law, you're a lawbreaker. But, we think he's going to let her go.
Yeah.
And so we're going to get him. But Jesus bent down and wrote with his finger on the ground. And as they continued to ask him, he said, this is what's so cool about it. He's writing on the ground, and they're so blinded by their hate that they're like, what are you going to do, Jesus? What are you going to do? And he stands up and he says, let him who is without sin among you be the first to throw a stone at her. And once more he bent down and wrote on the ground. But when they heard it, they went away one by one, beginning with the older ones, and Jesus was left alone with a woman standing before him. So apparently he starts off with old Elmer, and he's like, Elmer, you're a liar.
Yeah,
and
right.
Jimmy, you're a whatever.
This? Yeah.
And Methuselah something, you're and they're like, dude, that's me. Oh, that is what I do. And they get out.
Yeah, they just leave without a word.
Right, and he doesn't get rid of the law. But what's interesting is afterwards, it's just her and him, this like intimate moment where she's expecting something to happen very bad for her, and he says to her in verse 10, woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you? She said, "No one, Lord." Now, in the Bible, there's no punctuation. I personally think this was a question, as in like, "No one, Lord." Like the only person who could throw stones was standing before her.
Right.
Because look at his response. He goes, "I don't condemn you.
I don't condemn you either." Yeah.
Right. So go from now on and sin no more. So here's what he was after. He wasn't after destroying this person's life and again nailing to the wall. Just
right.
or persecuting her, or giving her, not even persecuting her, giving her what she deserves. What he wants more is a changed life.
Right.
Because here's
one for the heart.
Exactly. Because that's his daughter.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Right.
That's the thing that we don't remember is that guy that you took a picture of. He's the Son of God.
That's exactly right. Jesus died for that guy.
Right. And he's hurting that this man, whether he's making choices of his own that's caused him to be in that situation or whatever. And I'm sure he's like, man, I wish someone would help my son.
Yeah.
And when we come not yelling at them, but actually wanting to help and change their life, this is what's kind of interesting. What if we had this mindset? What if we had the mindset that not only would we throw a couple bills at them, which sometimes, let's just be real. You're in a scenario that's the best you could do, or whatever.
Right. I knew that I shouldn't be paying this guy, but he got me. Right?
No.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, I'm saying like, let's just be real. There are certain times where you're like, you don't, this is what you got going, and you're gonna do it. But the ultimate would be to help this person turn their life around to where they would be a child of God and they would live the life that God would want them to live.
Yes.
And how about this? We help them so much that they would actually have to fight us to go back to that type of lifestyle.
Yeah, I love that.
Right?
Say that again so that the listeners don't miss it.
This idea of if we were able to help this guy to such an extent that if he ever decided to go back to that corner, he'd have to fight you to go there.
So what do you do? Yeah, because we're a mentor or we're a support system or we're a friend, right?
Right. I think that's what God is calling us to do. And I really believe we got to get more into each other's lives in a way of loving kindness, right? Not trying to be like, hey, I saw what you did, you loser, or, I'm going to fine you or anything like that, but more of, hey, let me help you. Let me help you change your life. Like Jesus helped me change my life.
You think about the leper that came to Jesus. That guy could have been stoned. Because he'd already been tossed out of society. But Jesus showed mercy as opposed to judgment. The disciples were giving judgment on him. Get away, get away. Jesus went to him, and because he cared for that guy, cared for his family, and healed him. And
it's very easy to say serves you right.
Right, exactly right.
You mentioned that guy in a corner. I drove. You're driving down the road. I saw someone as I was driving by, and as I locked eyes with him, locked out just for a moment, saw a sign. I thought, well, he looks like a guy who's dealing with some sort of chemical abuse. Mm-hmm. But I'm also thinking this guy needs Jesus.
Yeah. Man,
imagine if I had to stand on a corner.
Yeah, right.
To beg. Even if it was for wickedness, to beg to do that.
Yeah.
Like I had to stand all day and beg for money, or even just to get a 40 to drink away my sadness. Yeah. At best, I would never want that on anyone.
Right. Exactly.
And I think God is saying, help that. And so, that might not be your thing. Like you might not have a lot of connections with the homeless or whatever. But here's the challenge: is be willing to mentor somebody. When you see someone struggling, don't yell at them. Don't attack them.
Those teens today.
Right. Yeah. No, get in their lives and help them and say, let me help you move forward. Amen. We're not going to go back. We're going to move forward.
Amen.
Amen.
Spend time with those kids. Spend time with teenagers. Spend time with their own kids, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Very good.
So, that's Man Talk.
And we believe in three things. First one is that we need to love God.
Love everybody.
And duct tape fixes everything.
Everything. See ya.
See ya.